Welcome to Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where you get unconventional insights into retirement and lifestyle design that actually work. You don't have to settle for the same tired Wall Street advice. Break away from the herd and learn how to achieve the retirement lifestyle of your dreams. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio, episode 121. Thank you for being here. Always a privilege to broadcast and truly appreciate the support of the show. Continues to go. I am always flattered by the number of downloads that happen every month and all those various things, but truly even more excited when people contact me from hearing me on the show. Those are always exciting opportunities to help. Really do appreciate it. As you heard, I am the income engineer broadcasting today from the Personal Pension Radio Workshop studio here in Southern California. The actual site just yesterday of one of my worst and most crazy workshop-related injuries to date. Swung a hammer yesterday, and it's always important, just a note to yourself, that as you get ready to swing a hammer, make sure that area around your hammer is clear of things like your power drill and very sharp drill bits sticking out of those power drills. Sure enough, I did not notice the drill was turned actually with the drill bit in the vicinity of where I was swinging the hammer, and sure enough, swung my fingers, right into that drill bit. Holy moly, that was amazing. I will possibly go in for stitches tomorrow. We'll see how it looks tomorrow. I don't really have enough super glue to take care of this one. So, enough about my wonderful workshop-related injuries. You are on Personal Pension Radio. Don't forget to check out personalpensionradio.com. You can find Personal Pension Radio back episodes and so forth there. I do my best to get transcripts posted. It is a time-consuming process, so if there's anything related to show notes and things that you missed, please don't hesitate. Just find me on LinkedIn or through personalpensionradio.com. But you can also connect with me. I've been more and more lately actively telling people to connect with me on LinkedIn. And it's Kraig with a K, K-R-A-I-G, Strom, S-T-R-O-M. Find me on LinkedIn. Love to have a connection there with audience members from Personal Pension Radio. So now, important little background. Someone asked me, and I have to remember. Sometimes I don't remember to get into some of the background. And I had a recent opportunity to speak with a podcast listener who asked me for some background. And it's always important, I think, just from a personal touch, to make sure that you know who I am. I am originally born in Maine. As a young person, that's where I grew up. I grew up in the woods. Came to California a long time ago by way of a trip to Disney World, and we were overbooked on our return flights back to Portland, Maine, and we got tickets that we could use to come anywhere in the continental United States, and we came to California a year later as a family on another vacation, and ultimately we moved to California as a result of that trip. Now, myself, work-wise, I am a certified financial planning professional. I am also a chartered financial consultant, and I'm an investment advisor representative, under the investment world, if you will. I am married to my wonderful patient wife, Amy. We just celebrated a wedding anniversary here in May. Love it. Got my 19-year-old daughter. She's off in Flagstaff, going to college, and so far as I know, she hasn't been arrested, so success, everything's going well. We have 2 fur people. We are dog people. If you listen to episode 120, as I was talking about pet financing, you know that we are dog people. Not because I don't like, cats in general or anything like that. It's just my wife is allergic, so dogs are the way to go, especially the non-allergy type dogs. Now, I'm a woodworker and I'm passionate about cars. I do run a weekly car show here in the local area where I live. And just make sure that you know that I'm crazy about cars. I also hold a car dealership license. So there you go. Now, my passions, as you've heard already, family for sure. But as it relates to passion for my work as a certified financial planning professional, I was educated by the Wall Street financial advisory machine. What I mean by that, when I say machine, I mean it. It is a big, huge, I just picture it as this giant machine. And the Wall Street financial advisory machine spends over $17 billion a year in just advertising. That doesn't include 401k advertising. It doesn't even include really how much they spend on digital. But $17 billion. So they also spend a huge amount of money teaching financial professionals like myself what to teach you, the general public. But I was never taught to pay attention to what was behind the curtain, what was behind the message or the undertones of the education being provided. And truth be told, most advisors today have been and continue to be educated by the same machine that taught me the messaging that worked best for banks and Wall Street. So CPAs, attorneys, bankers, insurance professionals, the list goes on and on and on. The advice is always the same. It's coming from that Wall Street education machine, and it's incomplete. It wasn't until years ago or years into my financial practice, I really started asking questions. I started challenging that which was being being taught. I started challenging it and asking questions. Well, wait a minute. Is that the whole story? Is that the complete picture? And every question I asked in the beginning was met with basically the same answers, right? The answer to everything was invest more. Right? Well, how do I help people save for college? I hadn't learned that years and years ago. Well, how do I help people invest for college? They got to invest more money. They got to save more money. Save, do this, do that. How do I help people retire with the best lifestyle possible? The answer was they've got to invest more. They've got to diversify and dollar cost average and yada, yada, yada. The same answer for everything. Invest more money. And then the big Great Recession, that 2008, 9, and 10, was a huge wake-up call for me as a financial advisor that the education I received was not completely right. It was only half the story, and it was an incomplete picture of the retirement planning journey. And what I mean by that is retirement planning is a two-part journey. Accumulation, or up the mountain, saving and saving for retirement, and we reach the top of that retirement mountain, what do we have to do? We've got to come back down the other side, and that is the distribution phase. And what Wall Street was never teaching, and doesn't to this day still does not spend a great deal of money or time or energy teaching it, is they didn't talk about the economic rules and principles of retirement distribution. Completely 180 degrees different than accumulating wealth. Distribution is totally different. They didn't teach it to me, and therefore it wasn't being taught to you, the general public. So I am passionate about this message behind optimizing retirement income. I will tell you, I will tell everyone. I will argue the point. I will discuss it until I'm blue in the face when necessary. But the idea that saving more money or investing or that life insurance or real estate or 401ks or Roth IRAs are the solution to maximum retirement income is totally wrong. Okay? Optimizing retirement income does not happen with a product. It doesn't happen with Roth IRAs. It doesn't happen with life insurance. It doesn't happen with a 401k or real estate or investments. None of these things by themselves will get you to that maximum dreamed about lifestyle in retirement. You've got to have an integrated approach. You have to have a financial advisor who is able to speak about, let's say, life insurance from a stance that is not life insurance is the answer to your retirement problems. It is not. It can be a fantastic part of a great retirement income plan, but it is not the answer. Someone else will say, oh my gosh, real estate is the greatest thing for retirement. By itself, real estate is a good, even great accumulation asset, but as a real estate asset, as a retirement asset, real estate may not be, and in most cases is not the best retirement income asset by itself. So it's truly important, like I did, that I'm encouraging you to stop just blindly following this conventional wisdom, this mainstream flow of education that comes out of the Wall Street education machine, because it is self-serving to the Wall Street machine. It makes sense, right? Does Wall Street, the organization as a whole, that makes so much money in the financial services and retirement world, do they have any, think about this, any financial incentive to teach you or to teach me how to teach you to take money out of their system? Of course not. So it makes sense that the answer to everything is put more money in the system, right? So I'm here to tell you that maximum retirement income requires a change in your paradigm. It requires you to step away from this conventional mainstream flow of education, the marketing and everything around it, and step back and ask questions like, wait a minute, hey, go up to your financial advisor, email them, call them right now this week as soon as you're hearing this on a Monday, and contact your financial advisor and say, I don't want to know what my retirement number will be. What I really want to know is, if we follow your plan, and when I'm pick a number, 65, how much retirement income can I have from all the investment work that you're going to do for me? Ask about the income number, folks. Ask about the result. And then you'll realize, whoa, that is not the number you might have wanted to hear. Okay? So, disclosure before I go on to the first segment. I am not an attorney. I am not a certified public accountant. As I said before, I am a certified financial planner professional. But please, don't act on things that you hear on this show as if they're advice. They're my opinions in many cases. Yes, I have very strong personal opinions, professional economic opinions, but please don't act on things that you hear on my show as if it's advice tailored to your situation. And especially, please don't act on things that you hear from financial entertainers. Financial entertainers are people like Dave Ramsey, who has no licensing, no credentials, no oversight from any regulators that are watching out for your best interest. Nobody's watching out for financial entertainers. They basically can tell you whatever the heck they want, right or wrong. Please don't take that as any kind of financial advice that should be acted on. Please meet with a qualified financial advisor. And I'll tell you just boldly, I would love that advisor to be me, because I do believe I bring a perspective that you've got to hear before you move forward with financial decisions. And I'm always excited to hear from listeners. So do that. Contact me on the website, or you can go to my LinkedIn page. Now, the first segment is called Watch Your Step. Watch where you're stepping. Watch out. Last week, I actually talked about pet financing. Yes, pet financing. Taking loans to buy gourmet dogs and cats and such. If you haven't heard such a thing, go back and listen to the episode 120. Anyway, I won't get into that. But what I want to do is, I want to share with you a quote that I was reminded of recently. And this is actually a quote from Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." Okay? And what he was alluding to was this idea that the masses and, that animal instinct in us as human beings, we tend to jump into things and we get all excited about it and we jump in and we get greedy. We hear, oh, the stock market is up and, oh, it's at 20,000 and it's going to go to 21,000 and, oh, I better buy. I better get in. Well, that's that greed, that excitement, that group mentality, right? And Warren Buffett had said, among many quotes, but he said, be fearful when others are greedy, when others are wanting to jump on and clamor on to this elevator that's already at the top. Be wary. Be greedy, though, when others are fearful. When the world starts going sideways, falling, slipping, that's when people start to get scared and fearful. That's when the smart money starts to get greedy, starts to get excited, okay? And this reminded me again, so listen, hearing that quote again from Warren Buffett, what I'm trying to say is just watch out for that exuberance, and this is what clicked in my head, irrational exuberance. If you've never heard the term, it's likely that you've heard it, but you might have forgotten where it came from, okay? That irrational exuberance is the phrase that pops into my head when I hear someone like Warren Buffett say, be fearful when others are greedy. Now, the term irrational exuberance got national or internationally known back in 1996 when, at that time, Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan, he used that phrase in a speech he was giving on December 5th, 1996. And he used irrational exuberance as a warning that investment markets might be somewhat overvalued. Okay? And he said, so I think this is the quote here, I've got it here. But how do we know when irrational exuberance has unduly escalated asset values, which then become subject to unexpected and prolonged contractions? Well, what happened in 2008 and 9? We had a bunch of irrational exuberance from the general public as everybody was clamoring on to the roller coaster that was at the top of the hill. And that as Alan Greenspan, so I would say almost prophetically in 1996, said that it kind of unduly escalated values over this and then it becomes subject to unexpected prolonged contractions. Well, guess what? The dot-com bubble ran up from 1997 right into 2000, right? So remember, Alan Greenspan was talking about watch out for irrational exuberance in 1996. And sure enough, 96, 97, all the way through 2000. And what happened? We had the dot-com bubble exploded, right? That dot-com recession. Now, I am not predicting anything. I'm just asking you, I'm imploring you, pay attention to the signs. Step back and remember smart money versus dumb money. Okay? Smart money versus dumb money. Okay? The smart money is suggested that's institutional investors. That's big, huge institutional hedge funds and banks and such. You get reports, if you pay attention, you get reports like this from B of A. The headline, this entire rally has been institutions selling to, quote, animal-spirited retail investors. Okay, listen to that. That's a B of A quote, basically. And by the way, I have a link in the show notes to where that is. But this entire rally has been institutions, those are the big ones, the smart money, selling to animal-spirited retail investors. That would be the dumb money. JP Morgan, institutions, hedge funds are using the rally to sell to retail. And just terminology here, retail is what some people in the financial world, that's the general public, institutions basically selling to the dumb money. Okay. Now, again, I am not predicting. I'm not telling you which way the stock market will go. I think any financial person who's telling you that kind of stuff, they don't know what they're talking about in most cases. Okay. What I'm suggesting is that there are signs all over the place. I have been guilty of missing the signs myself in the past. I just want to help you pay attention. These things are out there. It's right in front of us. Okay. So watch out for that. Don't fall for things like this next piece that I'm going to share with you. Okay, don't fall for this irrational exuberance. Don't get sucked into it. Step back, analyze it personally before you jump on that roller coaster. You might want to take a step back. Think about it for a second. Okay, now there's something that's been going around quite a bit as I've listened to the radio. I try to listen and pay attention to what's out there. I have to admit, I do not listen to a lot of political talk. I don't listen to political stuff. This whole election season and now President Trump this and so this and he's that. I don't really pay attention to that. Now, what I do pay attention to is the messaging around certain buzzwords that one side likes versus another. Now, in my case, it's financial related. So I am urging you, please don't fall for it. Whether you're Republican or Democrat or you're libertarian, it doesn't matter. You've got one candidate last year promised, basically said, I'm going to increase the estate tax on the wealthy families. And the other side said, boo, that's terrible. We hate you and we're never going to vote for you. And then the other candidate said they were going to lower or eliminate the estate tax. And the opposition to that person, right, that candidate was, boo, you only like the rich and, oh, it's terrible, right? So you had both candidates saying different things about the estate tax. But let me remind you, don't fall for it. Pay attention to the unintended or unspoken consequences of both of those things, right? Both of those actions, one candidate, let's say, got elected and they would have increased the tax on the wealthy. Oh, great. Nobody talks about the economic effect that will have on everyone else and vice versa. So we got the candidate who said he was going to lower or eliminate the estate tax, and our side, if you're the person who voted for that candidate, you say, our side won, and look, we're going to get rid of the estate tax, and look how great that is. We're going to have tax reform. But let me remind you that tax-friendly talk, like eliminating the estate tax, it might sound good, but there are always consequences, right? For example, while the current political leadership in Washington talks about better tax policies, right? So let's say if President Trump eliminates the estate tax, right? Who wins? Well, first off, very few families in general, as a percentage of the population, benefit from the estate tax rule, right? And a likely side effect of the estate tax elimination would also be a change in the step up in basis rule. Pay attention to this, folks. The step up in basis rule actually affects millions of families every year. A much larger percentage of the population is affected by the step up in basis rule. Step up in basis basically means, let's say grandma bought a piece of real estate in 1960 and she paid $10,000 for it, but now that piece of real estate is worth $500,000 and she's never paid taxes on it. Well, if grandma sold it while she was alive, she would have to pay taxes on the increase from $10,000 to $500,000, right? She'd have to pay a big capital gain. Well, under the current tax law, if grandma dies and leaves that behind to her children, well, the family can get, if it's owned correctly, can get a step up in basis, meaning that the purchase price of $10,000 now jumps up to today's $500,000 value. And if the family sold it, they could potentially pay no capital gains tax. Okay. But remember, the property has to be owned correctly, in a living trust, for example, or passed down to a spouse. There's a variety of things, but that step up in basis, that's a big deal. That's actually a big deal for just average families with investment accounts and real estate assets and business assets and things like that, right? So you think about, we're going to get rid of the estate tax. Oh, it's going to be great. Look how forward-thinking and progressive we are. But if you're not paying attention, the government always slips something else in. So let's say they eliminate the estate tax, but in order to help pay for that, they also change the step up in basis rules, right? Well, what if they did that? Right? And it gets worse. So you look at President Trump today has actually suggested raising revenue to cover the estate tax elimination, but raising revenue by taxing unrealized capital gains upon death, which could potentially really shift a significant portion of the death tax to the middle class. Now, President Trump has proposed a cap of $10 million on that tax that could be passed on, but there's no certainty that this could happen. There's no certainty whatsoever, right? All there is, in my opinion, is uncertainty. And let me ask you this. Think about it personally. Does the government really ever, in the entirety, when you look at the entirety of what they do as it relates to taxes, do they ever really do anything that truly benefits the masses, those people who really pay taxes? Or do they ultimately find a way to wiggle in some other tax or fee or increase, right? There's always something hiding around the corner, okay? There's always something built in. So when you hear one side say, oh, we're going to eliminate the estate tax, and the other side says, boo, and then the other side says, oh, we should raise taxes on the wealthy. Well, there's always an unintended consequence. It's just most of the press and the politicians don't talk about the unintended consequences. So watch out for that. Now, the segment 2, this is actually a story that I want to share. This is client questions and stories. I want to share this with you. This is a story that I call learning that Dave Ramsey's advice was all wrong 4 years too late. Dave Ramsey's advice was all wrong 4 years too late. So my wife and I have some good friends. They're in their early 60s. And they have been Dave Ramsey devotees for a long time. I mean, they are, here's our debt-free scream, and we don't believe in whole life insurance. We believe in term, and we believe in 401k and invest in just whatever Dave Ramsey has been putting out there for years. These folks are like the gospel of Dave Ramsey, and they just follow whatever he says. Well, 4 years ago, they announced that they were going to pay off the mortgage on their home by cashing in a big part of his 401k. Now, they would still have a significant amount of money in their investment accounts even after paying off the mortgage, but their idea was they'll pay off the mortgage and then use that extra mortgage savings, the mortgage payment, and they'll just be investing until they got to 65 and they'll be okay, right? They'll be okay. I tried to gently convince them that this was a horrible idea, but they would not listen to anything that was in opposition to what they perceived as Dave Ramsey's preaching, which is get out of debt and get out of debt, get out of debt, get out of debt. Oh, you got to get out of debt. Pay cash for everything. That's the message they were hearing. And all they knew is that Dave Ramsey said, get out of debt. And they did it. They cashed out the 401k. They paid taxes through the nose. They paid taxes through the ears. They paid taxes through every bodily orifice. It was pretty bad, actually. They paid way higher taxes than they had expected. And now, 4 years later, they are realizing that it was a big, big mistake. Big mistake. We were with them recently, just recently, and they now realize that they are probably going to end up selling the house that they paid off to move into a smaller, more manageable place, because the home they're in now is really not a good retirement home. It has lots of stairs and lots of uneven spaces and places, and a big property with lots of expensive upkeep. They realize now that the money they saved on the mortgage payment will never, it's important to hear this, never be enough to recover the taxes and the penalties that they took to pay off the house. Never. They will never recover. They know it now. They're sad. You could just hear it in the tone of their voice that they realize that it was just a bad move. They now realize also that the taxes, insurance, and upkeep on their home was truly the most expensive part of the home. The mortgage itself, when they took into consideration the tax deduction that they receive on their income for the interest on the mortgage, that the mortgage payment itself was actually a really small part of the overall monthly expense of owning that home. And so now, looking at taxes and insurance and trash and upkeep and so forth, they realized that what they did is basically got rid of a huge part of their retirement savings so that they could eliminate the smaller part of their overall housing expense. And they actually said, now I'm not taking this, I'm not bragging. I wish that I'd never heard them have to say this, that they said that I was right, and that they wish they had actually listened and taken my advice not to pay off the mortgage. And the moral of the story, I guess, is this. Please don't take advice from financial entertainers. Don't take what you think is advice from financial entertainers. Some of you are listening right now who might be Dave Ramsey fans, and you'd say, oh, Dave Ramsey would never tell anybody to do that. Oh, no, he would never say that. Well, you know what? His overall driving message all the time is this one-size-fits-all, get out of debt, all debt is bad, all debt is bad. Well, that's the message, and you can't help but think, and this happened, that people are going to listen to the message. Whether it's right or wrong, people are hearing him say that, and a lot of people are actually taking it and acting on it. Like I said, don't take advice from financial entertainers, please. Closing thought on this. Here's the other issue that occurred to me as I went through this and prepared for this episode today. These friends of mine, my wife and I, they kept upgrading their house, and eventually they got into this big, beautiful dream house, and it's great. Don't get me wrong, it is great. Right? But now they find themselves realizing, now coming into their mid-60s, that, wow, this cannot possibly be their forever home. They can't be there when they're 80, because you just can't make it up and down that many stairs and that many uneven, unstable surfaces, right? But here's the scary thought. Millennials, this next generation coming in behind Gen X's, right, up underneath the baby boomers, they are not buying houses. They're not buying houses in the same way and the same volume that previous generations did. So those baby boomers out there, those Gen Xers out there who are still upgrading their house and upgrading and trading equity into the next biggest house and the next biggest mortgage payment, I've got news for you. You may not have the buyers that you hope for someday when you retire and you think, oh, I'm going to downsize someday. Downsizing is going to get more and more and more difficult as fewer and fewer members of the next generation or two are buying houses. Just to give you food for thought on this as a closing piece, I searched for this phrase, quote, millennials are not buying homes. That exact phrase, 3,370 posts and articles on Google. 3,370 for millennials are not buying homes. If you think you will buy up and up and up and then sell to the next generation, be careful, because there are fewer buyers coming up in the next 2 generations. Now, please, I'm going to close with this again. The future belongs to those who take action. Please, I was talking about my dad recently. My dad was a police officer, and he told us that if the world is in chaos, if the world is going sideways or going wrong, you better be prepared to take care of yourself. You better be prepared to take action. So when the economic world goes sideways, up, down, left, right, and the government's not going to be there to save everyone, you've got to take action today to put your house in order. Find out what your retirement income number is. If you haven't had a retirement income conversation with your financial advisor, go ask. Ask them for your retirement income number from your 401k. Go to a retirement income calculator online. Find out what it says. When you're not happy with the result, contact me. Go to personalpensionradio.com or catch me on LinkedIn. I will help you put together a picture of retirement that you can actually look forward to. That's my specialty. Take action. Get off that log and go. Thank you so much for joining me on Personal Pension Radio. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you're there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.